Ooh, that's all over the place. Hello, I am Carson Melton. Sometimes I go by Fond on the internet. I almost fell out of this chair. Uh, it is currently 10:10 p.m. I believe this is the 20th video diary. What I'm going to be talking about is the movie LongLegs. I just finished watching it. I just got back from the movie theaters. The movie probably ended maybe 30 minutes ago, somewhere around there. And it's still fresh in my mind, so I want to talk about it because I don't I go and do a lot of things like this, and I see a lot of media and art, and I consume it. But since I don't really have anyone to talk to about art, my muscles to like communicate what I think, or even like be able to like examine a movie and like really gnaw at like what my thoughts are, or like any piece of art, are really piece of popcorn. They're really frail right now. Like they haven't been trained. They're very weak. So I kind of want to talk. First thing I'm going to say is, if you watch this video and the movie LongLegs is still in theaters, you need to go watch it. You need to go watch it in theaters. Like, actually. A lot of people nowadays, this is a whole nother rant, but movies are not nearly as popular as they used to be, and they never will be that popular again. People don't go to movie theaters, but there's a certain experience you only get in a movie theater with an audience of people. And I feel like LongLegs is a good movie for that. The cinematography is great. There are moments which are really good for a theater. So if you can, go watch it in a theater before it's too late. Now, beyond this point, I'm going to say there's going to be spoilers. I'm going to talk about the movie. So if you wish to watch the movie, do not watch any more of this video. Go watch the movie first. I'd rather you watch the movie than finish this video. Even if you forget about this video and never come back. Ultimately, this channel is just for me. It's not even actually for you guys. So it doesn't quite matter. Anyway. The movie LongLegs, directed and produced by Nicolas Cage. At least one or the other. I believe directed and produced by Nicolas Cage. Also, perhaps written by Nicolas Cage too. Yeah, it's a Nicolas Cage movie, as far as I'm aware, and he also is the main antagonist, LongLegs, that the movie is named after. First thoughts, I want to really say this movie is stunning. The cinematography is absolutely wonderful. The opening scene in the theaters when it darkens, there's just this like giant red square on like the black of the screen. It's like I don't know what size like film it was, but it was like a box. Imagine this entire screen is this camera. It was probably didn't take up the whole screen. It was kind of like you can go watch probably the opening scene on YouTube or something. But it's just this giant red screen, and there's nothing in it at first. And my God, I thought that was so beautiful. This huge dark room and just like a giant red square in front of all of us lighting up the room. It felt like we were in like a weird sci-fi scene of a movie almost. Like we were part of a sci-fi movie. That's what it felt like. So that was really nice. The opening scene has some at the opening scene, and I think maybe all of the flashbacks are recorded in that kind of squarish film. I don't know, millimeter. I don't know what millimeter it was. A film. And it was just so nice. The opening was so nice. And just throughout the movie, there's a lot of good scenes. It's like a horror thriller, so of course there's a lot of like good scenes in general. There's a lot of imagery of like the devil and things like that, which are quote unquote perhaps real, perhaps not. But just the visuals of the movie is totally worth it. I think it's set in like early 2000s, the 90s, something like that. It's just absolutely brilliant. Anyway, the movie I really enjoyed. I think part of me didn't enjoy, or it tries to not enjoy parts because I'm like, well, this isn't very realistic. They shouldn't the detectives shouldn't be allowing this woman to go do all this stuff by herself, blah, blah, blah. They should have her on a stricter watch. But I kind of realize to really enjoy movies like this, you have to buy into it. Like, I didn't really know anything about this movie before I went and watched it. You have to like kind of buy into it. It's a thriller. It's not meant to be super realistic. It's meant to be thrilling. And if it is really realistic, it's gonna be really hard to make any of these things work. This movie is like a huge part of the movie is that there might be dark magic involved, and with the ending, perhaps it really is dark magic. Perhaps the devil's real. And there's just a brilliant form of logic versus the inexplainable in this movie, which is wonderful. Let me say the main antagonist, LongLegs, is so beautifully done. He's just this weird looking, just a normal guy. He's a weird looking guy who's just crazy and gross. He reminded me of some like the crazy people I met on VR chat with the way like with the way he taunts. This video totally paused. I didn't notice. With the way he taunts and stuff, it's just absolutely. I don't even know what to say. How am I going to fix this in time? This is so annoying when this happens. Okay, well, this is great. Hold on. I love when things work, don't you? You're really on a roll talking, and then everything just decides, hey, we're gonna do a little silly, aren't we? I don't know why this happens. Half the time, it's like I don't do anything different with my setup, and it just half the time it decides not to work. Actually, doesn't make sense. Let's just make a new thing. Oh great, now that thing's not working. Oh, cry me a river. We can't have anything nice. I'm really getting my thoughts out, and then the camera wants to say goodbye. What a wonderful thing. What a wonderful thing. With this. Oi, oi, oi. Come on, darling. Come on, darling. Just, there we go. Well, hopefully this won't pause this time. Anyway. So, yeah, Nicolas Cage did a wonderful job with being, I guess, maybe writing, but also portraying LongLegs. He's just this weird guy. He's totally normal, but he's crazy. He's absolutely crazy. He acts in a weird way. He says crazy things that make no sense. And he's just all around. He's not really. He is scary, but he's more just creepy, and he's like weirds you out almost. The movie in general is. I kind of saw where it was going to some extent. I don't necessarily think that's because I'm some expert at foreshadowing. I think a good piece of art or a good piece of media actually foreshadows it for you. So I think a lot of times when people are like, I totally saw that coming, I totally read the movie, blah, 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 I saw it before they even revealed it. I think a lot of times people don't realize that a good piece of film or a good piece of art foreshadows it for you. They give you the hint. Most of the time they'll give you a strong hint that allows you, if you're paying attention and thinking, to piece it together. And so you feel like you busted the code, but in reality they want you to realize. And I think that kind of might have happened in this movie, because there's a scene where she goes to her house and she's going to go into like a downstairs basement that's locked off. But she can't go into it because it's locked for some reason, and it's kind of weird. And at that point I kind of realized, oh my god, LongLegs, the main antagonist, is living in her house with her mother. Now, I didn't really understand what all this meant necessarily, but I realized this was kind of where the turning point was, where I'm like, oh my god, this is kind of where it's going. At one point, I thought she might have been involved too, but not her mother. Lee, what was her name? Lee Harkin? Lee Harkey? Something like that. Lee Hark? Anyway, Officer Lee, I thought she might have been part of that killer without realizing. But this movie, the main themes behind it, the main like idea of like what's happening, there's two things. When you're trying to logic it, it's LongLegs is somehow hypnotizing, manipulating these families into killing themselves and their family members, and has done all this stuff. But then at the end, once you get into the third act, the third part, they kind of start revealing everything. Where what's happening is he is a doll maker, and he's making these dolls, and he's putting these metal things in the doll's head. And it's kind of like this weird dark magic that as soon as the doll enters the house of the girl, the entire family starts acting weird, and that's like the devil enters the house. And that's what the mother was doing. She was helping get into the house because she was trustworthy. And that's where I was like, okay, well, what's happening is just this is some crazy manipulation where he's just manipulating, hypnotizing people, and everyone is just like, doesn't realize. But then the ending scene, which is probably the part that I dislike the most. I don't think it's bad, but I think I might dislike the ending the most. Maybe because it's so vague, but I think that's part of the nature. I think the nature of this movie is to be kind of vague, and you have to kind of buy into that to enjoy it to its fullest potential. So I'm kind of like not allowing that to like be like a huge ending to be like a huge problem for me, because I think it's part of the charm of what the movie's trying to be. You have to like, that's kind of what you have to expect. Anyway, so the ending is, which this was obvious very early on. Officer Lee's boss, his wife and his daughter's having a birthday on the 14th, and so they go to the birthday, and the mother has already like saved or something Lee. She ended up killing the doll that was related to Lee, so maybe it said I don't know what the hell that meant. She shot the doll that looked like Lee in the head, and she had like this weird black mist leave the back of her head. And so I guess the officer, Lee, is free from all this. Anyway, so she goes to her boss's house. The mother's already there, and on the couch is the little girl with a doll that looks just like her, the mother and the father. And as soon as she enters, it's really weird. The officer and the mother and the daughter, none of them are acting like they have been in this movie at all. They're all acting very unnatural, very unordinary, and it's very apparent. Like when they enter, she tries to tell his boss, like, that's my mother there, she's the accomplice. The boss yells at her to sit down, and the mother says, basically what ends up happening is the mother is going to be killed by the father in the kitchen, and so she watches as the father says, we're going into the kitchen and we're going to cut the cake, but I'm going to come out but you're not. And so it's kind of like they follow the script where the mother gets killed in the kitchen, the father comes out with a knife bloody trying to kill the daughter, so Officer Lee kills her boss, and then the mother decides, well, now she has to kill the daughter. So the mother tries to kill the daughter. Officer Lee decides to kill her mother then, to protect the girl. The reason this really bothered me, this is not where it ends either, but the reason this started to bother me was because it feels so sudden. Up to this point, you're like, okay, we're going to logic this, and even though there's a lot of these signs of like the devil is real, and there's like some real actual dark magic going on, you're not really, at least I wasn't really convinced that was actually what was going on. I was just convinced that was some form of like, that was like how this hypnotism and stuff was being projected, almost. But in the time it would take for the mother to get in there and hypnotize him, it just doesn't make sense. It's like as soon as that doll entered the house, they actually were possessed by the devil. They completely changed. They started killing each other. And so the ending kind of like almost does like a rug pull where it really is. I mean, it doesn't even fully verify it, I don't think. But you almost can't deny the fact that it literally is just the devil. And that, I don't know, I guess it kind of bothered me maybe because of how sudden it was. They walk in and the father, all like basically everyone she's trying to come save is already destined to die, and she's like her weird autistic traumatized self, so she just kind of lets them all die. Whatever. But then at the end, so she ends up saving the girl. She looks at the doll, she pulls out her revolver and is going to shoot the doll like her mother did to her doll to set the girl free. But there are no bullets. And I don't think she shot all of her bullets earlier in the movie. So I'm pretty sure it might have been like a setup. Like this might have been part of the plan all along, was for her to end up killing everyone and try to kill the doll but not be able to. So that little evil part of LongLegs is still alive. And then at the very end, the movie ends by her trying to kill the doll. It doesn't work, and then she starts hearing LongLegs with his crazy Hell Satan chant. And it kind of ends in a way of... It doesn't give you a clear ending. It kind of ends in a way where I thought... The way I interpreted it was she is hearing all this stuff, and now she's breaking down because she just had to kill everyone, and now she's about to have a mental lapse. And while she says to the girl, let's get out of here, I kind of saw it as she is going to have a mental lapse and might become LongLegs herself. And that little girl is going to become her accomplice. That's kind of how I saw it. Now, maybe since her doll was broken, she's fine. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how literal this stuff is. But I kind of took it like maybe the cycle is going to continue. There's not actually a happy ending here. That she's going to actually end up continuing on the cycle of insanity. All in all, it was a really good movie. The ending... What I'm going to do is I'm going to probably go on Reddit and look at what some other people are thinking of their opinions. I like it. I like that idea. I kind of... The ending was very sudden, but I think that fits if the magic part is real. If it really is dark magic, I kind of feel like that fits. Otherwise, with the movie, I thought it was pretty good all around it. I kind of... There was no real complaints. I mean, once you look past the fact that it's not super realistic because it's trying to be a horror thriller and it's very vague, and you just kind of buy into the cinematography and like the craziness and kind of the... what would you call it? But like the symbology and stuff. It's really fun. It's a very fun movie. It's not too scary. There's a lot of crazy stuff that happens, but it's not too scary. There's some shock factor. There's a decent amount of shock factor in there. But I think it's a beautiful watch at the very least. The writing, I think, for what it is very good. In the sense of it is very vague, and it's not not well written out in the sense of everything's explained and everything's very clear. It's the opposite. They try to be very vague and have a coherent story, but kind of make it vague and fast, and things happen without full explanations, and you're just kind of like being pulled along almost. And I think that works. I think that works for I think that works for that. Anyway, you should watch the movie if you haven't. I'm going to end this so I can go to bed. Goodbye.